But there's a lot of airspace to cover for Milroe. Corner, it's caught! Touchdown, Alabama! On a 4th and a mile! 31 yards!
Alabama, while I was born, Alabama, where I'm going. Don't throw your hands up, put up your hand. I ain't talking about Atlanta, I'm talking about the hell. I'm talking about the bill. ALABA, this what I live. Alabama, while I was born, Alabama, where I'm going.
Christian Ballard Sports Media, coming at you with this week's edition of Tidal Wave Talk, where we preview and predict every week the Alabama Crimson Tide. This week, it's third Saturday in October week. It's rivalry week. This time it's in Knoxville. We remember what happened last time it was in Knoxville. Oh, and before I forget, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. Really would appreciate it. Getting back to this, it is third Saturday in October. It is rivalry week. There's a ton of great games to highlight this week. But of course, this being one of them, I would say it's the second biggest, though, after Georgia and Texas and Austin. You can make a case in a way as to why this one might be a little bit bigger just because both teams have a loss and only one loss. It's SEC play, and because of it being just that big of a rivalry, and it's huge. You know, when you look at this rivalry, Nick Saban, the previous head coach for Alabama, who's now with ESPN, coached 17 games and only lost once. Once, and that was 2 years ago. He was 16-1. But before that, Mike Shula for Alabama was 0-4. Dennis Franchione coached 2 years. He was 1-1. And before that, Mike Dubose, 0-4. So no one for Alabama outside of, and even Gene Stallings was almost 500, just barely above it, 4-3 against Tennessee. But outside of Nick Saban and Bear Bryant, there hasn't been a winning coach in this series for the Crimson Tide of Alabama. Now, give credit to Philip Fulmer, who was coaching Tennessee for quite some time in 16 of these games, who went 11-4. Johnny Majors, 16 games, but went 4-12. Robert General Neyland had 12 wins, 5 losses, and 2 ties starting back in 1926. So, who did it better? Well, Tennessee, all time as a program, at least when it comes to facing Alabama, they got it pretty good. I think Alabama's up big by 20 games, really only because of the Nick Saban factor. There was some where we could keep talking about this rivalry and everything, but we want to actually surprise you guys and bring on a first time guest to Tidal Wave Talk here. And we want to bring in Tennessee baseball TriStar. How you doing, buddy?
Give me a second. There we go. I'm gonna need a cigarette for this one.
Oh, I got you, man. You're out there trucking, you're out there working, and obviously big time Tennessee fan. And we never really had a guest on Tidal Wave Talk where we preview the Alabama game each week. But for you to be the first one on here, this is pretty cool. And you know, kind of what I was saying before we got you in here, TriStar, is that this rivalry, kind of diving into the whole rivalry itself, when you look at Alabama leading the series by 20 games, but it's been known for streaks. It's been known to have history, and we've talked about this week on the phone and everything. The last time Tennessee was able to end a winning streak for Alabama and then not let it continue on too much. It's been quite some time because it's been known. Obviously, we know what Nick Saban did at Alabama over Tennessee. He lost one. But then, the same is said for guys for Tennessee, such as, I look at Philip Fulmer and I look at, Neyland, Robert Neyland, General Neyland, just having a lot of wins in this series.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Phil Fulmer's big saying every year. Now, granted, Phil Fulmer played at Tennessee under Doug Dickey in the late '60s. He always said, "You're not a man until you beat Alabama." So that's always been a huge game with Tennessee fans. I feel like Alabama fans of our generation, mine and your generation, didn't really appreciate it because Tennessee was down through the 2010s when Alabama was winning, a bunch of championships. But now I think your fan base that's our age is starting to realize how big this game is.
I think so, and I think what's made it big, even though there's been a lot of win streaks and stuff like that, it didn't used to be that way. And it used to be big at Bear Bryant's time and Neyland's time and Philip Fulmer. And it used to for a good while, there was a period where it was a little back and forth at times, but not much. Are we in an era, do you think, going with this rivalry where it could possibly be that back and forth, or do you think someone's going to continue a streak?
Um, well, if you go off of history, it tends to be when one streak ends, the other one begins. Um,
Mm.
the last time that it was really truly just back and forth, you got to go back to the late '40s and early '50s. You could even say maybe in the mid 2000s because we won in 2004. Y'all won in '05. That was probably the ugliest game I've ever seen. That '05 game because that one was 6-3. Just ugly, terrible game. And then we won in '06, and then y'all won in '07. Then y'all won every year until 2022. Um, yeah, it possibly could. I think it more depends on both coaches. Heupel, I mean, I think I know the last couple of weeks have not been the best, but I think Heupel long term is going to be fine. He's going to be up there, and then we'll see with DeBoer, but
Yeah.
who knows?
Well, I'll tell you this. Me personally, if I had to pick between now, obviously, if Saban was still here, we'd say, "Oh, Nick Saban, no doubt." But he's not in the picture. It's Kalen DeBoer. Now, let's say
Right.
he wins this game on Saturday, which is very likely, but also it's unlikely because of what Tennessee's got, and they got the home crowd this year. So I would say the better coach right now that's been proven in this series because he got a win a couple years ago. Plus, he's coached in it now on both sides, winning and losing, is Josh Heupel. So he knows a thing or two about what it takes to beat Alabama. Um, and when you dive into this year's game, I say we go ahead and do that. I want to go ahead and pull up what ESPN has. And we've kind of talked off air, about this game this week. I don't know if we've really messaged each other about the spread and everything, but it was 2.5. It's now gone up in favor of the Tide at 3 points with a 53.7% chance to win. 72 degrees this weekend in Neyland Stadium. Going to be nice weather. 2:30 Central kickoff, 3:30 local time in Tennessee. This this one just feels different though, and you and I have talked about that. Talk to me about why it just feels different.
Well, it feels different because I don't think really either fan base truly knows who's going to win this game. This is about as textbook of a pick 'em as I've ever seen. In my opinion, the only reason that Alabama is favored because their passing game has been a little bit better, but at the same time their rushing game has not been nearly as good as Tennessee's. But also too the fact that Alabama beat Georgia, so that gives them a bump. Whereas I think if say Alabama lost that game to Georgia, you could even argue maybe Tennessee might be a like a 1 point favorite or something. But if I'm a betting person, which I'm not, I don't really gamble on these games, but I probably would stay away from it because this game literally could go either way. Of course, me personally, I think Tennessee's going to win just off the fact it's at home. But I don't see it being like it was 2 years ago where it's 52-49. I don't see that because I think both offenses have too many issues right now, and Tennessee's defense has been playing lights out this year. And I don't know. I'll just say that I
No,
don't know.
I am with you because now outside of quarterback play, Nico Iamaleava's doing great for you guys. Jalen Milrow's doing great for us. But then you just have some issues. It's not a talent issue. It's what I like to call a
It's
chemistry.
execution. It's
It's
execution.
execution, it's chemistry, it's everyone being on the same page. As good as Ryan Williams is, as good as your running back Sampson is, as good as all these players are for both offenses, no one's on the same page. I would say 80% of the time out there on the field. And that's going to be something that needs to be fixed this weekend. Now, this game's kind of unpredictable just because of all the question marks for both teams. Plus, it's just a rivalry game. That's how rivalry games are. They're unpredictable. So, we are going to try to predict this one, like in favor of our teams, or really just being honest. But it's it just feels different. You know, I had talked about that a little bit on one of my shows or podcasts this week. I think I started one up on Spotify. I'll send it to you, but um
Okay.
I talked about how this game just felt different than it has in years past cuz usually we go into this talking all this smack and there's not really anyone talking smack right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see it from either side. I think me and you said it the other day on the phone. This is the first time I think I've ever seen in this game, going back to even in the 90s and the early 2000s when Tennessee was kind of owning the series, like where neither team really feels good about winning this game. Whether it's Tennessee because of the issues at left tackle with Lance Hurd and just Nico, looking like a freshman, or Alabama because the defense has been kind of suspect this year, and for some reason, Kalen DeBoer's kind of went away from using the running backs. And plus Tennessee's defense being really good. I mean, like I said, who do I think is going to win this game? Honestly, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give my prediction whenever you give yours, but it's not going to be a blowout. I don't see
No.
either team blowing out the other. Um, I don't know. That's the best way to put it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm full on with you there. And, obviously, you could still say that both teams have a shot at the SEC title. They're at a point where they got to win out. They got to beat. I mean, Alabama took care of Georgia. Tennessee's got to try to take care of them later on down the road. And, you got a good win over the new guy in Oklahoma. You had a close one against Florida, but losing to Arkansas, Alabama losing to Vandy the same weekend, just it is so weird to see these two teams in the same spot. But
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, because Alabama's dominated, Tennessee has had years where they couldn't dominate or they could, but they never did. And then there's also been time in history where Alabama was down in the dumps and Tennessee was high on the hog. So to see them both, I don't want to say they're down in the gutter, but they're almost right there in the middle. And this game is going to I'm going to make a prediction here that this game, the winner of this game, it's going to catapult them to be better than the other one long run the rest of this season, record
Oh,
wise. What do you
absolutely.
say?
Oh, absolutely, because this is basically kind of a de facto elimination game for the playoff because number one, yes, we still got to go to Georgia, but Alabama still got to go to LSU,
Yeah.
and
And
neither,
Oklahoma and play the Iron Bowl. We got a few games out there.
yeah, and I know people are already saying about us playing Kentucky. Let me smarten some people up. How that Tennessee Kentucky game always goes depends on where the game is played. If it's in Lexington, yes, it's going to be a one possession game slugfest. But if it's in Neyland, Tennessee more often than not wins handily. So concerned, but not too concerned. Then after that, we get Mississippi State, and then obviously we go to Athens to play Georgia, which is gonna. I'm still, even if we win this game, I've still got us losing that game because I have to. For me to pick us to win that game, I have to see us beat them first, and we've
Yeah.
not beaten them since 2016. And then after that, we get UTEP, and then we go to Vandy. So we shall see. But I
Yeah.
will say this. I will say this. Speaking of Arkansas, here's my bold prediction of the weekend. I believe, now this is my opinion, I believe Arkansas beats LSU.
It is at home.
It's in
And
Fayetteville,
that's the battle
and
battle of the boot.
and I think that win over Tennessee lit up something in Arkansas to where they realized that they still got the whole season ahead of them. Um, and plus, nobody seen them doing anything. Everyone said Sam Pittman's a dead man walking. Uh, I mean, we'll see, but the last time they went up there 2 years ago at the end of the year with Jaden Daniels, they gave Jaden Daniels all they wanted, and they almost
Oh
won
yeah.
2 years ago. So I just think that you know LSU's coming off that big win against Ole Miss. And usually, when you have a big win like that, you tend to have a come down game. And I think that this could be LSU's kind of come down game. And I think Arkansas is good enough, especially offensively, to get LSU. And I trust Arkansas's defensive coordinator.
For sure. Want to highlight though, we know all about these offenses. I got to ask you about Tennessee's defense, but before we do, I got to get into Alabama's defense. Obviously, both teams having issues on the defensive side of the ball, but still some good numbers out there. Q Robinson for Alabama has 4 sacks. Tim Keenan has 1.5. Jahad Campbell looks good. Deontay Lawson. I think there's just those moments of chemistry with Malachi Moore, Keon Sabb, or whoever it might be where they're just not 100% on the same page. And I think it's not as bad as it looks. I think it looks bad because it doesn't look like it was with Nick Saban, but we got to get past that. Alabama has some issues on defense, I know, but I don't think it's as bad as it is. When people say that Tennessee has issues defensively, is it as bad as it seems? And I got to ask about some of the standout players you've seen this year.
Um, I, I wouldn't really say Tennessee's had any issues defensively. I would argue maybe in that the one game where I guess you could say they had some issues was the Arkansas game, but I think that was just from a standpoint they just got tired. Kind of like Clemson, Georgia, where Clemson's defense was giving Georgia all they wanted in that first half, but when their offense just couldn't get going, uh, eventually your defense is just going to get tired. So I think that's kind of what happened in that Arkansas game. I thought Tennessee's defense played very well, especially in the second half against Florida. Um, Now, standout players, one guy that I thought I think that's played very well is Jamal McCoy. He's the transfer from Oregon State we brought in to play corner. I think he's played very well. Another guy to be on the lookout for. He's a freshman, but he's a ball hawk and he's getting at it, and that's Boo Carter. Now I'm a little biased because he went to Bradley Central. He's a Cleveland boy, but he's played very well. Keenan Peely was playing good. Unfortunately, he had a torn ACL during the Florida game. He's out for the season, so he's done. Arian Carter has played very well. He's kind of been a big anchor on the defense, especially at linebacker. Um, a lot of guys have played very well on Tennessee's defense, and that has kind of been Tennessee's saving grace of all things. You would never have thought 3 years ago you would hear a Josh Heupel coached Tennessee team being carried by the defense. You would have never thought that.
I mean,
And I think that
no offense to him, but he's almost like a Lincoln Riley type of guy, but where the defense just doesn't click too much, but he knows his offense. But carry on.
well, here's the difference between Lincoln Riley and Josh Heupel. They both come from that Mike Leach tree. They both played for him. Now, Lincoln Riley coached under Mike Leach for years, whereas Heupel played under Mike Leach his first year at Oklahoma before he went to Texas Tech and took the head coaching job. The difference is that I think that the staff that he built defensively is way better than Lincoln Riley has ever had at either Oklahoma or USC. And I think he understood pretty quickly in the Southeastern Conference, you have to have some semblance of a defense. I mean, go back to 2022. Everybody raves about that 2022 Tennessee team, but how great the offense was. The defense cost us in several games that year. I mean, I would argue, everybody wants to, put conspiracy theories on that South Carolina game 2 years ago. Oh, Shane Beamer had him wearing wristbands, or oh, it was this, oh, it was that. I mean, Hendon Hooker didn't give up 63 points.
Right.
That was the defense. The defense just played terrible in that game, and South Carolina exploited it. So, to me, it's a breath of fresh air. Am I going to, some people are saying, oh, well, Nico, oh, he's not, see, I told you he's a bust. No, he's a freshman. I mean, it doesn't help that the offensive line has not played up to standard so far. Now, could that change? Could. But so far, I've not seen anything. Lance Hurd has absolutely not lived up to expectation. Lance Hurd seems to me, it's two things. Either A, he's out of shape because, Tennessee likes to go fast, up-tempo stuff. And if you notice, a lot of times he looks kind of lead-footed, flat-footed, and looks like he gets tired. And secondly, I think it's more of a kind of like a Walter Nolan kind of thing. Like, have you heard that about Walter Nolan? It's like when he's motivated, he looks like the best player in America. That's the same thing with Lance Hurd. Like, there's some plays where Lance Hurd looks phenomenal. But then you got some plays, it looks like he shouldn't be on an NAIA team.
Yeah. And that's what's always weird is when you have that whether you want to say it's a generational player or just a great player, you always have those guys somewhere on a team like in Alabama, like Tennessee, where it's either they're the best player in America or, like you said, NAIA team or whatever, just get off of our team type of deal. And it's
Right.
You mentioned Lance Hurd, so I would be curious what your thoughts are. Does Alabama have that kind of player? And I know you probably want to ask me, just being a fan. I don't know if we have that one this year, but I have seen it in years past where it was like Why wasn't he performing up to what he's been doing
Well, the
like
prime
every
example
week?
for Alabama last year, I would say, was Caden Proctor.
Yeah. And
I
he
mean,
got hurt a
Caden
little
Proctor,
bit, but
yeah, and and I'll say this, Caden Proctor, he was a 5-star, but he was a true freshman. It's
yeah.
it's impossible. It's extremely rare to have an offensive lineman coming out of high school that even 5-stars that just immediately are contributors like that. Very rarely do you see anything like that.
Right.
Like even the best tackle that Tennessee's had the last 10 plus years, Darnell Wright. I mean, when he first got to Tennessee, he wasn't great, but he was kind of like yeah. Have you ever heard that saying? It's a wrestling term, but he was a puppy with big paws. Like he's going to grow into it.
Yep.
That's how I feel about Caden Proctor. That's how I feel about Justice Haynes. That's how I feel about some players on Alabama's team. Now, obviously you got Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams was a day one guy, and I think if he goes down, if Ryan Williams goes down with some kind of injury, I don't know what Alabama's offense is going to do because I
Probably
don't see
nothing
any.
because I'll be honest, dude, like you're fixing to say, I don't see anybody. Now, Jeremy Bernard's okay, Kobe Prentice okay, but they're not going to be as productive as what Ryan Williams has done. He's got 23 receptions on the year for us, 576 yards. He's averaging 25 yards a catch, and he's already, I mean, he's 17 years old. He's got 6 touchdowns
Yeah,
and
don't
we're
forget
halfway
that.
through the
Yeah,
year.
yeah. Hey, y'all that watch this. Hey, did you know Ryan Williams is 17?
17, bro. He graduated early. Good academics. I mean, he's got it set.
Yeah, I mean, every time Alabama has played a game this year, they make sure you know that. Hey, did you know Ryan Williams is 17 years old? Yes, we know. You've said it 10,000 times. But
Uh,
again, and with Tennessee, looking at the offensive line, Carrick, he's the left guard. He's okay. Obviously, Cooper the center. I think he's been good. Javonte Spraggins, our right guard, has played good. John Campbell, people think he's regressed. From what I've heard out of my people in Knoxville is that he's been playing a little bit injured. So I think once he gets fully healthy, I think he'll be fine. I think it's mainly just that left side is the weakness. But unfortunately for Nico, that's the blind side. That's the side you can't see.
yeah.
So to me, what Tennessee needs to do, and I'm not the only one that said this. Numerous people have said this. They need to put in more like rollouts because the thing is right now, since that Oklahoma game, every defense has just stacked the box with 8 guys dedicating themselves to the run and just daring you to pass on them. And
Yeah.
Nico has been missing guys, but I think those throws are going to be there. And also too, I think some of it is on the wide receivers, not playing up to standard. But I think eventually those problems will be squashed by the end of this season at some point. I think eventually Nico is going to have that what I like to call a light bulb moment, where it's just that light bulb goes off in your mind and you finally get it.
Yeah.
And it could be this weekend, it could be against Kentucky, it could be against Mississippi State. We don't know. But when it happens and it's that light bulb moment, I think Tennessee's going to be absolutely dangerous.
And I think the same would be said as much as we give credit to what he's done so far. I think Jalen Milroe still needs a light bulb moment a little bit. I know this is like his second year starting, but think about it, man. Like Western Kentucky, USF, those games are not your light bulb moment. Now, he had great offense against Georgia. I get it. Well, let me say this. Scratch all that.
I mean, I
No,
would say,
you know who needs the light bulb moment for Alabama? The defense needs the light bulb moment. For real.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah, who would have thought?
I don't know what I'm going off of with Jalen Milrow. Probably because you were saying something about Nico, and I just thought, man, these teams are the same. But no, it's kind of the opposite for Alabama if you think about it. Like Milrow's doing his job. Ryan Williams out there balling. Justice Haynes and Jam Miller at running back are great. The defense, man, they need that light bulb moment against a really good offense. Can it happen against Tennessee? I don't think so. I think it's still too early, but what are your thoughts?
Well, I think a lot of it depends on Kane Womack, the defense coordinator, and does he make adjustments? And so far, he's not looked good as a defensive coordinator because there's talent there.
Yeah.
It's not a talent issue. To me, I think with the defense, it's a coaching and execution issue. And my thing is, it could happen against us. I mean, heck, we made Arkansas and Florida look like they have competent defenses. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it could. But if I had to put my money on it, I would say, maybe Nico finally has that light bulb moment and it finally clicks for him in this game. I don't know, but we'll see. But I know if I'm Heupel, if I'm Tennessee, I'm really hammering the RPO, and as well, I'm also going to be doing a lot of quarterback rollouts with play action because they know Dylan Sampson's great. They know Dylan Sampson's special, and they're stacking the box and doing one-on-ones. Use it to your advantage. If you know you've got a weak side of your offensive line, you want to do rollouts to your strong side. That's just offense 101. Because if you do rollouts, you don't have to worry about, him staying in the pocket. Now, I know they kind of want him to stand in the pocket to develop because I can see Heupel doing this. I think he's wanting him to learn how to stand in the pocket and throw. Because you can't just be doing 10,000 rollouts because eventually they're just going to start loading that side, and then you can't do rollouts. But I think if to get the offense going, they're going to have to do some more of that because it seems like when they've done that, Tennessee's offense tends to move the ball a lot better. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll find out Saturday, and who knows?
It's funny that, we're talking about this game the way we're talking about it, and I can't believe it's already here because I remember right after you guys beat us in 2022, I
Oh, I
said
remember.
that looked. I know. No, but it's funny because I got Iron Bowl tickets for my mom for Mother's Day, so we'll get to go to that game, and they got me USF tickets, and me and my parents went. So I settled for 2 Bama home games, but I was really contemplating, and it's too late now. Like you're not getting tickets to this game, but talk to me about like the game
Well,
day
you
experience.
can get tickets for
I
Tennessee,
don't have the
Alabama, but
money.
you're going
I don't have the money.
but you're going to be paying a pretty penny.
Well, let me ask you, what's a game day like at Neyland, man? Because I almost wanted to cross this off my bucket list.
Well, it's loud, it's raucous, it's a bunch of hillbillies drunk. It's now I'm a little biased. I think it's better than LSU because with LSU it has to be a night game. People try to say, well, if it's a day game, they're not drunk enough. I'm like, well, if you have to have it where your fans are inebriated for the stadium to be loud, then how good is your home environment really?
Right.
And it's absolutely a bucket list stadium. It doesn't matter who Tennessee's really playing. Like we could be playing Alabama or Alabama A&M. It does not matter. That stadium is going to be sold out. It's going to be raucous. It's going to be going. Now, obviously, the length of how long the loudness and raucousness goes depends on who the team is. Yeah, if it's Alabama A&M or Middle Tennessee State, maybe for a quarter and a half. Then once Tennessee gets ahead like 35-42 nothing, then you'll start seeing the stadium file out. But for the most part, it's absolutely a bucket list stadium. My first game was against Vanderbilt in 2003, and I'll never forget it. Now I've got
Yeah.
my complaints with the ticket prices now because working people like myself and like you can't really afford to go to these games hardly anymore. I seen somebody put a screenshot on Twitter where it showed the Alabama Georgia tickets at Bryant Denny, and then it showed Tennessee Alabama right next to it for the cheap seats, nosebleeds.
Yeah.
And I think the cheapest ticket I seen for Alabama Georgia, number 2 versus number 4, night game. Georgia 2-time national champion the last 3 years, Kirby Smart and all that, coming to Bryant Denny. The cheapest ticket I think was $275.
Wow. That's the cheapest?
Yeah, well, if you think that's expensive, the cheapest ticket I've seen for Tennessee now end zone upper deck nosebleeds, which is usually the cheapest seats,
Yeah.
was somewhere in the range of 600.
Wow. It's crazy. But it's still a bucket list, man. Rocky Top for sure. I don't know when, but we can make it happen, man. I'll have to look at next year's schedule, even if it's like a small game. I'm looking at it right now. You guys play UAB next September. I'm going to school there soon,
Can't
so
hear you.
might have to do
Can't
something.
hear you.
Can you hear me? I think TriStar's having issues. So,
Say something.
hello. Try it without the headset.
I can't hear you.
Let me type this.
Let me refresh.
So while we're waiting on TriStar, like, just giving my thoughts on this game, I fully agree with him. I mean, I am depleted as an Alabama fan about this game. If it's at Bryant Denny, maybe it's something different. I don't know, but can you hear us now?
I can hear you now. I was getting a phone call. I turned my phone on do not disturb, and somebody tried to call me. So that's probably what it was. So
All right, all right.
we
So
can cut that out and edit that. It's okay.
yeah, we'll cut a lot of this out for sure. Anyway, folks. So getting into predictions about this game, TriStar, where do we stand? I know we kind of both talk about, we just don't know about our teams, but are you picking Tennessee to win? And if so, how close is it going to be? Because I personally am picking Tennessee in an upset.
I am picking Tennessee to win 24-21. That's my prediction.
I got them on this. I got them 35-34. I got it. I just don't trust the defenses right now, man. I just don't. And I see a shootout, but it
Uh,
won't be as high scoring as
I
22.
I
That's all
don't I don't see, if it's a shootout right now, I would probably favor Alabama if they can move the
okay.
ball in our defense. But I trust my defense right now, and I think that game to me screams 24-21. So just I don't know why,
That's
just something
fair.
about that score.
That's the
And
thing is like I almost went with that, but I keep thinking about these offenses. I keep thinking about the weapons and everything. But that's what makes this game so great and unique this year is we just don't know. It's really a mystery right now, and I'm contemplating like I, I I'm telling myself, man, why did I even do a score prediction this week? Really, but it's fun, so I like it.
Well, I mean, I can totally understand doing a score prediction because this is one of the big games of the week. Think about it. Both teams the last 2 weeks have looked almost identical. I
Yeah,
mean, we both lose 2 weeks ago against much inferior competition. We both had struggle wins against much inferior competition at home last week. So what that says to me is that we don't know what we're going to get.
and
I
these
mean,
teams, I mean, the spread should say even instead of 3. You know?
in my opinion, it's a pick 'em. Like,
Yeah,
and I like I said, I don't know, but that's my prediction is 24-21 Tennessee. I think Nico starts to get better. I think Kane Womack is not going to adjust like he's done all year, and I think it's going to end up costing Alabama. Now, I'm not saying either team's going to blow the other one out. I don't see that,
I'd be
but
shocked.
I'd be highly shocked.
Yeah.
Like, because I still like Malachi Moore back there in secondary. I think that does help y'all a little bit, but I think a lot just depends on if Tennessee can get the run game going pretty early, Tennessee's chances go way up. I think it just depends on
Yeah.
can Alabama's defense hold down the run game long enough to let Alabama's offense get cooking. Now, if they can, this is going to be a ball game. But I'm actually, now that I think about it, I think of Tennessee, if their defense for, say, the first quarter is able to hold Alabama down, maybe not even scoreless, but maybe to a touchdown, and Tennessee's offense finally, snaps out of it, starts moving, starts running the ball really well, and Nico hits a couple of deep shots in a weird way. If it's to me, I think if it's going to be a blowout, actually, it might sound crazy right now, but I think if it's going to be a blowout, I think it's more Tennessee just for the fact of it's at home.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, you
Because you hit a couple of
people
them chump plays, get that crowd into it. I absolutely that's what I see happen.
yeah. I would be shocked if it happens, but I fully agree because it's at home, and I think if it were at Bryant-Denny, I think
I'll
with
be
the
feeling
same
the total
teams.
opposite.
Right, right. Well, any other thoughts or anything else people need to know about Tennessee in this particular game this week before we get out of here, TriStar?
Well, I do have one suggestion to the powers that be at both. Can we please bring back both wearing home uniforms in this game, please?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because that's how it was done for decades. And then I want to say it was in the 80s they stopped doing it, and they've not done it since the 70s, and it needs to happen. It just looks right. I mean, heck, they allow USC and UCLA to do it. They allow certain teams. I don't see why they can't. I mean, I'm under the belief sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission
Right.
and just do it anyway. So if any powers that be at the University of Alabama watch this, wear your home uniforms, please.
I'd be down for that. I'd be down for that. And let's bring back white helmets for Alabama while we're at it. Because those back in the day,
Ooh.
man, that dude, I don't know why they got rid of that. Why is it always crimson colored? I like crimson colored, but white helmets are cool in my book.
Well, I mean, here's my thing with Alabama. I understand, the tradition, the traditional uniforms and stuff. They never really went away from them. But even Tennessee, as tradition minded as Tennessee is, they're not afraid to wear alternate uniforms for like. I mean, obviously, if we're playing like Alabama, yeah, we're going to be wearing traditional orange and white. I'd be in favor of Tennessee bringing back black shoes
Okay.
because to me that just looks right. I mean, on College Ball 25, that's what I do. I have them wearing black cleats for all the uniforms. Because it just
Yeah.
that's the one thing I will definitely give Pruitt on this is I think that the uniforms that we had the years he was there with the solid white pants, the solid orange jersey, and the black shoes with the white socks, it looked classic. It looked great.
Yeah,
That's
for
the only
sure.
thing I will. That's the only one good thing I will say about Jeremy Pruitt.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't really say much about him. But anyway, I think for this video, that's going to do it for Tidal Wave Talk. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Love and appreciate you. Jesus loves you. Don't forget, we'll be live on Saturday for our college football marathon. We're going to go live for college game day at 8:45 in the morning. Then we'll be live for the third Saturday game. And then we'll also be live for Georgia and Texas. All of those are on YouTube and Facebook, except for UGA Texas will be YouTube only. Excited. Can't wait for this game. And TriStar, thanks for doing this, buddy. Love and appreciate you, brother. And good luck to Tennessee.
Oh, absolutely. Y'all have a good one and have a good night.